Somewhere inside a Microsoft data center, there is a version of Windows that almost nobody outside Redmond has ever seen running. It is not a leak. It is not a fan-made render. It is real code, sitting inside real insider builds, hidden behind what engineers call a cloud flag, a switch that can be flipped on remotely, instantly, for millions of machines at once, without you ever installing anything new. And right now, that switch is off, but the architecture is already there, waiting. The question nobody in the mainstream tech press wants to ask directly is this: if Microsoft has no new operating system coming, why does the current one already contain the skeleton of one? That single contradiction is the seed of everything that follows. Because what is unfolding right now across Microsoft's Windows division is not a simple product update. It is a quiet, high-stakes internal war between two competing visions of what a billion-device operating system should even be. And the company's own public statements are starting to conflict with what its own engineers have shipped into testing channels. Read that again. The same company that told the world on the record that no new Windows version is coming has simultaneously allowed components for a brand new shell architecture to surface inside its own developer builds. That is not an accident. Systems this large do not leak by accident. Something is being prepared. The only open question is what Microsoft plans to call it when it plans to flip the switch, and whether the company itself has actually decided yet. To understand why this matters, you have to understand the clock that is already running out in the background. Windows 10, the operating system still installed on a staggering share of the world's computers, officially lost mainstream support back in October of 2025. For a system that Microsoft has described as part of the installed base of more than 1 billion monthly active Windows devices, that is not a footnote. That is a fault line running underneath the entire global PC economy. Microsoft tried to offer a bridge, a paid extended security updates program, ESU, meant to buy stragglers one more year of patches while they migrated to Windows 11. But here is where it gets worse. Just days ago, Microsoft quietly rewrote its own support documentation, extending that ESU deadline by an entire additional year, pushing the real cutoff from October 2026 all the way to October 2027. Think about what that means. Microsoft did not announce this with a press conference. It did not put it in a keynote. It changed a support page and let outlets that watch those pages closely be the ones to notice. A company does not silently give itself an extra year of runway on a dying operating system unless the thing meant to replace it isn't ready yet, or unless the world isn't ready to let go of the old one. Either way, that is not the behavior of a company confidently marching toward a finished successor. That is the behavior of a company buying itself time it didn't originally plan to need. And this is where the story stops being about an expiration date and starts being about a fight over the soul of the operating system itself. For more than 2 years now, fragments of a project that insiders refer to by the internal codename Core PC have been surfacing inside leaked build references, developer documentation, and code branches that were never meant to be public. Core PC is not just a rebrand. According to multiple independent threads of reporting, it represents an attempt to tear out the decades-old architecture sitting at the heart of every version of Windows since the 1990s and replace it with something closer to what you'd find on a modern smartphone operating system. A hard separation between the protected, read-only core of the OS, the user's personal data, and the applications running on top of it. In that world, a corrupted app can no longer take the entire system down with it. An update to the operating system core would no longer require touching your files, your settings, or your installed programs. The endless cycle of rebooting, waiting, and praying that has defined Windows updates for a generation could, in theory, simply end. This is not chaos. This is strategy. A company that wants to scale one operating system across phones, tablets, ultralight laptops, gaming rigs, and cloud-streamed virtual desktops cannot keep doing it with 30-year-old plumbing. It needs something modular, something that can be assembled differently depending on the device. Core PC is Microsoft's attempt to build exactly that. But here's the part that turns an engineering story into a battle for trust. In early March of this year, a report, translated and republished by a major outlet, PC World, from a German tech publication, claimed something explosive, that this modular Core PC foundation was about to ship as a fully branded successor to Windows 11, popularly nicknamed Windows 12, under the internal codename Hudson Valley Next sometime in 2026. The report didn't stop there. It claimed the new system would require a neural processing unit capable of at least 40 trillion operations per second just to unlock its full feature set. A hardware bar so high it would instantly exclude a massive share of the computers currently in use around the world. It claimed leaked code fragments referenced a subscription status, hinting that some of the operating system's most advanced AI capabilities might one day live behind a recurring monthly fee, not a one-time purchase. And it claimed centered Copilot integration and a redesigned floating taskbar, were already locked in as part of the new interface. The story spread like wildfire. Within 48 hours, it had been picked up, repeated, and amplified across dozens of tech outlets and millions of social media impressions, because it told a story people were primed to believe, that the operating system on a billion machines was quietly being rebuilt into a paywalled, AI-gated platform that would strand anyone without the newest, most expensive hardware. Then came the pushback. And this is exactly where the story most people saw online stopped, and where the real story actually begins. Within days, one of the most well-sourced Windows reporters in the industry, Zach Bowden of Windows Central, who has a long track record of accurate insider access to Microsoft's actual roadmap, published a direct rebuttal. According to his reporting, the viral piece had the facts wrong in several critical places. Core PC, he reported, was a real internal initiative, but one that dated back to 2023, was originally meant to ship in 2024, and according to his sources, had since been quietly shelved. The Hudson Valley code name circulating across the leaks, he reported, wasn't tied to a future Windows 12 at all. It was an older internal name associated with Windows 11's 24H2 update cycle. According to Bowden's sources, Microsoft's actual roadmap for 2026 was not a new flagship operating system. It was something far less glamorous and arguably far more telling. A focused internal effort to fix what was already broken in Windows 11. Performance complaints, reliability issues, and the accumulated friction points users had been reporting for years. If a true numbered successor to Windows 11 ever does ship, his reporting suggested, it is more likely to land in 2027 or later, not this year. So which version of the story is true? Here is what most people are not seeing. Both of them might be, just at different layers of the same company. Microsoft is large enough, and Windows is consequential enough, that multiple teams can be pursuing different futures simultaneously, with neither one fully knowing which version will win internal approval, let alone when. The code names are real. The core PC architecture concept is real. The NPU requirements tied to Microsoft's existing Copilot plus PC hardware category are real and already shipping in stores today. What is not confirmed, what Microsoft itself has explicitly and repeatedly denied, is that any of this is locked, dated, or assembled into a single branded product called Windows 12 launching this year. A Microsoft Learn support post from February explicitly stated, there has been no official Windows 12 announcement. That sentence is true. It is also, in a strange way, the least important sentence in this entire story, because it answers a question almost nobody who understands how this company operates was actually asking. The real question was never whether Microsoft would hold a press conference and say the words Windows 12. The real question is whether the underlying architecture of the operating system that runs more than 1 billion devices is already being rebuilt out of public view, piece by piece, before anyone is told what it's being rebuilt into. And the most direct evidence yet that the answer is yes did not come from a leaker, a forum post, or a foreign tech outlet. It came from inside Microsoft's own developer community channels. A contributor with direct visibility into Windows Insider builds reported just weeks ago that the latest test builds already contain the full architecture of a new system interface, sitting completely intact inside the operating system. A new shell loading component referred to as Shellhost, a companion piece called Krypton Shellhost, designed to host an entirely new user interface, an active WinUI 3 runtime, modern XAML packs, and what was described as the entire deployment pipeline ready to go. According to that report, all of these pieces are already part of the operating system you may be running right now. The new interface itself is sitting there, inert, behind a cloud-based toggle, waiting to be switched on remotely. This is the detail that should genuinely unsettle anyone paying close attention. It means Microsoft does not need to ship you a new version of Windows to give you a new version of Windows. It can simply flip a flag on its own servers, and the interface your machine has been quietly carrying around for months suddenly appears. Think about what that means for how little control end users, IT departments, and even enterprise security teams actually have over when and how a fundamental shift in their operating system arrives. You won't be asked. You will be updated, then you will discover what changed. While all of that quietly unfolds underneath the surface, Microsoft has been making an enormous amount of noise in a completely different direction, and the contrast between the two is itself the story. At Microsoft Build 2026, the company's flagship developer conference, Windows Plus devices, President Pavan Davuluri went out of his way, before the keynote even started, to publicly shut down the Windows 12 speculation that had been swirling for months, joking on social media that something new was coming for developers, but explicitly and pointedly noting it was not a new version of the operating system. That is not a denial you issue casually. That is a denial you issue when you know exactly how loud the rumor has gotten and you need to control the narrative before your own conference starts. And what Microsoft revealed instead was, in its own way, just as dramatic as a new operating system would have been. Rather than a new numbered Windows, the company doubled down hard on transforming Windows 11 itself into what it is calling an AI-centered platform, with autonomous agents woven into the operating system's core functions. New systems with names like Microsoft IQ and an internal reasoning model called MAI Thinking One were positioned as always-on AI agents capable of deploying real workplace knowledge to help structure a user's entire day. A project called Microsoft Scout was framed as a reasoning-driven agent meant to coordinate schedules and map out daily workflows on a user's behalf. And in perhaps the most jaw-dropping announcement of the keynote, Microsoft unveiled something called Project Solara. Devices explicitly described as being built to replace traditional hardware altogether, leaning on AI agents with genuine autonomy rather than simple assistance. Here is where the escalation compounds. This wasn't just a software story anymore. Microsoft simultaneously revealed a new hardware alliance with NVIDIA, ARM, and MediaTek, centered around a brand new ARM-based processor called the N1X, debuting inside a new Surface Laptop Ultra built explicitly for gaming and AI workloads. Three of the most powerful silicon companies on the planet, standing alongside Microsoft, all using the exact same language to describe what they called a new era of the PC. That is not coincidental marketing alignment. That is a coordinated signal to the entire hardware ecosystem that the next wave of Windows devices, whatever they end up being officially called, will be built around a fundamentally different chip architecture than the Intel and AMD foundation that has defined Windows PCs for nearly 3 decades. According to informed industry analysis, this kind of multi-vendor, multi-architecture alignment historically only happens directly before a major platform shift, not during a routine maintenance year. So now stack everything on top of each other, because this is where the full picture finally comes into focus. A billion-device operating system is approaching a hard support deadline that Microsoft has now quietly pushed back once already. A modular, security-hardened app-isolating architecture called Core PC has existed inside the company for years, shelved by some accounts, actively alive in test builds by others. A new shell interface, shell host, Krypton shell host, a modern UI runtime, is already sitting dormant inside current Windows builds fully built, waiting for a remote switch. Microsoft's own leadership has gone out of its way, publicly and repeatedly, to deny that any of this adds up to a new operating system launching this year. And at the exact same time, the company is reshaping its current operating system from the inside out into an AI agent-driven platform, aligning with 3 major chipmakers on an entirely new generation of ARM-based hardware built explicitly for that future. None of these individual facts, taken alone, proves a hidden Windows 12 is imminent. But taken together, they describe something undeniable. An operating system in the middle of the most significant architectural transition of its existence, happening in plain sight, while the company carefully manages exactly how much of it the public is allowed to see at once. What most people are not seeing is the timing of all of it. The Windows 10 support cliff, the Surface Boot Certificate expirations beginning this June that could leave unenrolled devices facing startup validation failures, the ESU deadline extension that nobody had to grant unless the alternative wasn't ready, the insider builds already carrying a dormant new shell, the AI agent platform being bolted onto the current OS at the exact same moment a brand new chip architecture is being introduced by 3 separate silicon giants. Every one of these threads on its own can be explained away as routine. Together, they describe a company managing an enormous slow-motion handoff, trying to avoid the kind of fragmentation and consumer panic that comes with announcing a major platform shift before the pieces are actually ready to be switched on. The real story is not that Microsoft is hiding a finished Windows 12 from the world. The real story is that Microsoft itself may not yet know exactly what it's going to call the thing it is already building, piece by piece, inside the operating system you're using right now. And this is where everything changes for the people actually sitting in front of these machines every day. If you are running Windows 10 right now, the deadline pressure you've been told to feel has not disappeared. It has simply been rescheduled, and rescheduled in a way that benefits Microsoft's transition timeline far more than it benefits you personally, because every additional month you stay on aging hardware is another month you are not part of whatever AI-native NPU accelerated future the company is clearly building toward. If you're running Windows 11 on a machine without one of the new dedicated AI chips, you are already quietly on the wrong side of a hardware line that didn't exist 18 months ago and is becoming more important every quarter. And if you're an IT decision maker for an organization with thousands of endpoints, you're now being asked to plan procurement cycles, security postures, and multi-year budgets around a roadmap that the company building the product will not fully confirm, while credible insider reporters actively contradict each other about what's coming and when. This is the part nobody on either side of the rumor war wants to say out loud, because it doesn't fit neatly into either a viral leak headline or a corporate denial. Microsoft is not lying when it says there is no Windows 12 launching this year. And the leakers are not lying when they say a new shell architecture already exists inside current builds. Both things are true, simultaneously, because the operating system world's biggest software company has learned the hard way that announcing a platform shift before the underlying pieces are fully proven invites exactly the kind of chaos, fragmentation, and consumer rejection that slowed Windows 11's own adoption for years. So instead, the rebuild is happening underneath the surface, shipped in pieces, tested behind closed flags, denied in public the moment speculation gets too specific, while the AI agent platform that will eventually need a new foundation gets built out loud, in full view, branded as nothing more dramatic than an update to the Windows you already have. What happens when that hidden architecture finally does get switched on is still genuinely unknown, not because Microsoft is concealing a finished plan, but because, by every credible account from inside and outside the company, that plan may not be finished yet. Will the new shell sitting dormant in current builds ever actually ship as a numbered successor, or will it simply roll out as another incremental update to Windows 11 with a new coat of paint, and nobody ever calling it Windows 12 at all? Will the 40 TOPS NPU threshold that triggered so much public alarm become a real enforced gate that splits the Windows install base into AI-capable and AI-excluded tiers? Or will Microsoft quietly walk that requirement back the way it has walked back hardware requirements before? Will the subscription traces found in leaked code ever surface as an actual recurring fee layered on top of an operating system people have paid for once for 40 years? Or will that detail simply vanish the way so many leaked features eventually do? And perhaps the most unsettling question of all, if Microsoft can already remotely toggle a fully built alternate version of your operating system's interface without your knowledge or consent, what else might already be sitting inside the machine in front of you, finished, dormant, and simply waiting for the moment the company decides you're ready to see it?